All right, good to go. All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Zoom Downtown Action Committee meeting of March 10th, 2021. And if we could please start with a roll call.
Roger Jansen,
Present.
Nick Mihilich,
Here.
Ryan Checkis,
Present.
Stephen Graham. Let the record reflect that Stephen Graham is not present. Michael Cuevas. Michael Cuevas. We can hear you, but Brad McPherson,
Present.
Johnny Lee Dizon,
Present.
Gregory Gabriel.
Present.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. Next item, does anyone have any on the minutes from January meeting? Any comments or motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, none opposed. The minutes from January 13th are approved. Item 3, report from urban designer. Mr. Ponte, are you there?
I'm here. Good morning, everybody, board members. Happy to be here again. I just want to hope that everybody is healthy and safe, and we are almost there. A few more months and probably we'll be done and come back to the live meetings. Looking forward to see you all in person. That's all I have to say for this morning.
Okay, thank you. I'll repeat the same sentiments. Well said, and we'll skip down to ex parte communication. Anyone to declare ex parte for today's case? No, none. Okay, we'll move forward into today's cases, which would be starting with case number PB-1882, a city-initiated request. And go ahead and hear from staff, please.
We have to swear in the speaker's chair. Also, the script for the virtual meeting has not been read.
Oh, yeah, I apologize. Would you kindly read that, Hope?
Pursuant to Mayor Keith A. James's executive order number 2020-05 issued on April 2nd, 2020, the City of West Palm Beach's boards and committees are conducting meetings through media technology and have released the requirements to have a quorum of its members physically present at City Hall. On April 14, 2020, Mayor Keith A. James issued executive order number 2020-09, which specifically provides the rules of procedure for conducting city meetings, including requirements of quasi-judicial hearings. To ensure the ability for the public to continue to participate in this public hearing, it is being streamed live and available for viewing in the City Commission chambers located at City Center 401 Clematis Street on the condition that social distancing be practiced. Additionally, for those wishing to access the meeting remotely, they are able to do so directly through the applicable Zoom webinar link, as well as the city's usual media channels, including WPB-TV 18, the city's website, and the city's YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter feeds. Anyone from the public who would like to provide comment on an agenda item is able to do so through the following. Number 1, in the City Center Flagler Gallery. Number 2, dialing 561-320-6599 and leaving a voicemail not to exceed 3 minutes. Number 3, sending an email or video recording to dacpubliccomment@wpb.org, or 4, completing the online public comment form at www.wpb.org/public comments. Those accessing the meeting directly through Zoom may also use the Q&A or raise hand features. Regardless of method, please be sure to indicate the agenda number or case number for which you are providing comment. Everyone providing testimony must have video capability and will need to be sworn in. The swearing in will occur at the start of each case on the agenda. If you are about to provide testimony and were not sworn in, please be sure to indicate such and be sworn in before offering your testimony. After the applicant presents their case, staff will provide a presentation, and then the public will have an opportunity to speak or have their comments read into the record from previously received correspondence. The The board will then go into executive session. Prior to rendering a decision, the board will confirm no additional public comments have been received by staff. For the members of the board, it is emphasized that Florida's sunshine laws are applicable, and you may not use the chat feature or any other form of individual communication to discuss matters with other board members, the applicant, or the general public during the meeting.
All right, great. Thanks, Hope. And then, yeah, anyone that would need to be sworn in that's providing testimony for today's case, would you please handle that, Hope?
I'm going to
Yes,
ask,
Oh, okay, Sam, sorry.
that's okay. Each person giving testimony, please raise your right hand. Do each of you swear or affirm the testimony you give will be truthful?
I do.
I do.
Okay. I guess back to you, Anna Maria.
Yes, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm gonna now share my screen and start my presentation.
Can I verify my mic is working?
Yes, it's
Okay.
working now, Mike.
It wasn't working before. Okay, great.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Perfect.
And
Yes,
if you
thank-
go to the slideshow mode, there you go.
It's in the slideshow? No? Where is the slideshow? Make slideshow on.
Hit end show and try starting
Okay.
again.
Now. Is that okay?
That's better. There you go.
Okay,
Mhm.
perfect. Thank you very much, Ana Maria Pontes, urban designer, for the record. This is Planning Board Case 18A2, Comprehensive Plan Amendments for the Downtown Workforce Housing Incentive. This is a city-initiated request for a text amendment to the Downtown Master Plan element of the Comprehensive Plan, modifying Policy 2.4.2 and Policy 3.1.3 in relation to the creation of a new housing incentive program for the downtown area. This is the first step of a much longer process that we are proposing from the city's perspective to do amendments to the comprehensive plan and the zoning code to create a new housing incentive program for the downtown. You are familiar with this process. We first have to amend the comprehensive plan, and then subsequently we will amend the zoning and land development regulations to implement the details of the program. A little bit of background information about this is for the last several years, the city has had discussions about the availability of housing for families earning the area median income that is around $79,100. Especially that is important for housing of those working downtown. What we have seen in the last year is definitely an explosion of downtown housing with many units built. But as the employment grows and the housing supply grows in the downtown area, we have not seen the same pace of development for housing for a target for families that earn the area median income or below the $79,000. What that forces is it makes workers that have employment in the downtown to leave elsewhere outside the downtown, and they have to commute to the downtown. And that is causing definitely congestion downtown. We see as the development capacity of the downtown increases and more capacity is added, the traffic will increase, and we need to kind of address some issues with that to diminish the traffic congestion in the downtown. And one of those elements will be definitely to provide housing affordable for workers in the downtown area. Staff conducted an analysis recently of the prices of the units downtown. And if you see the table on the top of the screen has, based on the information provided by each of these projects in their website, these are professionally managed rental communities in the downtown area that have been built in the last 5 or 6 years. The prices per unit based on the number of rooms. So if you can see the studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedrooms, the average market rate cost for those units, it's indicated on the bottom. Like for example, a studio costs $1,686 in average. When we compare that with the availability of, or how much a family making the area median income can pay, we have identified that there is a substantial gap between those two prices. If you see like a person earning, let's say 100% of the AMI, that is the $79,100 a year, can pay a maximum rent of $1,536, $1,538. That is below what the market rate for a typical studio unit goes in the downtown area. The lower you go with the income, and we did the analysis from 60% of the AMI to the 100% of the AMI, you see the gap increases also as the larger the unit. So once you go with a 1-bedroom unit, the gap between what a family can afford and what the market rate is commanding is it starts to go higher. So we have an incentive program in the downtown for affordable housing intended to promote the construction of affordable housing, and is an existing program that has been in place for several years that provides additional development capacity for those developers that decide to do affordable housing, and it's housing for income between 50 and 150% of the area median income. For these developers, they will be offered as they can increase the development capacity based on the TDR program, the city will offer the TDRs that they need to increase that capacity at no cost for them. So the city will utilize the city-owned TDRs and give it to the developers. Based on this, or utilizing this project, we have one project has been built and completed. It's the Vernier Place project that was built several years ago on a Vernier and Sapodilla. It is all a tax credit project, and all of their units, 85 units, are below 80% of the area median income. We have two projects that have recently been approved, and one of them is already under construction, and the other one will start pretty soon. The Flagler Station at the corner of Banyan and Tamarind is already under construction, and its 94 units will all be dedicated for families with income at 80 or below 80% of the area median income. This project, as well as the Vernier Place, are projects that receive tax increment financing. So they are heavily subsidized by the state, and the city provided them with the TDRs that they needed to increase the development capacity. The third project that is right now in the last stages of site plan approval that the board approved in January is the Grand project on the corner of 3rd Street and Rosemary. They will provide a total of 309 units, from which 103 units will be below 100% of the AMI. This is a mixed income project, and the city is offering some additional incentives to subsidize this project, in addition to the TDRs, the city-owned TDRs that will be given to the project to achieve the additional development capacity needed for the project. So you see from all these projects, only at this point, with the ones that have been built, only 85 units have been built for families below 80% of the AMI in the downtown area. That from a total of 3,397 units that have been built since 2000. That is basically around 2.5% of the total units. I'm not counting the two projects that are moving forward under construction, so that's a substantial increase. But this is from the 3,397 units that have been built in the downtown since 2006. Only 85% of those units, so 2.5%, have been dedicated for families below 80% of the AMI. So considering that the limited amount of affordable housing for families below the 100% of the AMI have been produced in the downtown, the city has decided to take a more kind of aggressive approach to try to lure the developers and building more mixed income projects. Because what we are seeing, as I showed you before, is like basically the projects that are tax credit are fully affordable projects, and they are not, only the grant project is now producing or will be producing some units that are mixed income projects. So we are currently drafting a program, a new program that will be the Downtown Master Plan Housing Incentive Program that will replace the existing affordable housing program that we have. And will basically ask the developers, allow the developers to increase the development capacity from the by right development through the TDR program, similar to what it happens today. But if the developers is proposing a residential project, they will have, as a requirement, they will have to provide 33% of the incentive area for families with incomes between 60 and 100% of AMI. Another difference for the new program is the TDRs. The developer will have to acquire the TDRs in the private market. The previous program offers city-owned TDRs to the developers as an incentive, but right now the city does not own a substantial number of TDRs to offer to the developers. So we have to shift that to the private market. And that's why the requirement is basically only 33% of the incentive area is dedicated to the restricted income, the 60 to 100%. The rest of the incentive area can be dedicated for a market rate units, and the developer can develop that one. And the intention is to have a truly mixed income project. As I say, the program will utilize the TDR, so the developer will have to buy that. We are also working on some options for compliance. So the first option, and it's definitely the preferred option by staff at this point, is that the developer moves ahead with the project and builds the unit on their project. So they will truly do the mixed income project in their proposed project. We are though offering some alternatives also. The second alternative is they can build the units off-site as long as they are within the downtown area. They could do that. Have, I don't know, partnered with other projects, other developers, and do one single project that is a lower income level development, or they could also we're offering a buyout option. These are kind of the big picture parameters that we are working right now. The details of this program, we are heavily working with those details with the city's development and housing department. And we are drafting those, and those will come back in front of the board for approval in the near future. So at this point, we are just presenting to you the comprehensive plan amendments that are necessary for us to give the first step to implement this program. As I say, to implement the new housing incentive program, there are a couple of changes that we need to do to the comprehensive plan. They are minor changes, I will say, and if you see them alone, they are not strictly, at least the big one, not specifically related to the housing program. It's more about the incentives. So there are two changes. The first one is update the policy 2.4.2 that is within the downtown master plan element of the comprehensive plan that specifically says the city shall promote the creation of affordable and workforce housing through the establishment of incentive programs such as, but not limited to, the existing affordable housing incentive program. So this is basically a house cleaning matter. We just want to remove the specificity of the program to just give us the flexibility to change any names and don't have any reference in the comp plan that require us to tie to that. So just the policy will still remain basically saying the city shall promote the creation of affordable and workforce housing through the establishment of incentive programs, but not mention any specific programs. So that's more a house cleaning matter than anything. The second amendment that we are proposing that is more involved is to policy 3.1.3. And basically this change, what it does is identify additional areas of the downtown as eligible to receive incentives and increase development capacity by right with the incentives. So increase height and FAR and gross building area. And that requires basically two amendments to do specifically to specific documents. The table DMP1, that is the maximum development capacity, and then the figure DMP-3, that is the incentive areas map. So this is the table DMP1 that includes the maximum development capacity. This table lists basically each of the sub-districts in the downtown and identify what is the maximum development capacity allowed in that sub-district by right and with incentives, and the same with the height, by right and with incentives. So what we are proposing is to increase a couple of, increase the area eligible for incentives in certain districts, sub-districts. So the cultural art districts, we are increasing the development capacity in there that was not eligible for incentives before. The Quadro Business District, and the transit-oriented development district. That I'm going to show you the map because it's easier to understand. It's basically, we have identified that the area between the two train stations, so the area between Tamarind Avenue and Quadro Boulevard that was previously, and I'm not sure if you can see on my screen, this area that is the TOD area and a portion of the Quadro Business District, had some incentives, but was not identified all as eligible for incentives to increase development capacity. We have identified that as a prime location, that additional capacity, it is appropriate. And because its proximity to the transportation, now with the Bright Line station, we have even double the capacity of public transportation. So we think it is appropriate to put a little bit more of incentives on that area to promote the construction of additional housing on that area. So that reflects, those districts reflect these ones on the table. So you see all these areas are reflecting the sub-districts that we are adding. So the cultural art districts in here that was not at receiving side before for TDRs or any incentives, we are identifying them. Also the areas in the core of the TOD and increasing some of the areas on the Quadro Business District. We are not only making them eligible for incentive, but in some cases, increasing slightly their development capacity with incentives to allow the FAR to be slightly higher. And the goal with this is to really make the numbers work for the developers, so they are encouraged to do a project as we are proposing, because they can do more square footage. The only other area that we are modifying in here, so making it eligible for incentives, is the area where the site where the Banyan Garage currently sits on the south side of Banyan between Olive and Narcissus. That is not specifically targeted for a housing incentive right now, but the city is working on renovating, like tearing down that garage and doing a new project. It's a prime location for a new development. So we want to adjust the development capacity of that area also to allow a building to have more intensity of development, really maximize that prime location. The rest of the areas are all the other incentive areas that remain the same. So the other areas designated for incentives could still utilize the new housing incentive program. They're not recruited, it's not only for this area. So we are just identifying all the areas in the downtown where additional development capacity can be achieved through incentives. The details of how the incentive will work and which incentives will come in the zoning and land development regulation, but we needed to create this framework so we can implement the detailed regulation in the zoning and land development regulation. The additional development capacity obtained will be used through the TDR program. So as always, no overall increase of the development capacity in the downtown will occur, as the development capacity has to be brought into the site from other historic properties or the creation of new open space. That's all the bulk of the proposal. As I say, the details of the program, that it will be the most interesting part of the amendment, will come with the zoning and land development regulations. At this point, staff is recommending approval for the planning board case number 1882, based on the findings and data and analysis presented in this staff report, and based on the finding that the amendment meets the requirements of Chapter 163 Florida statutes, and it is consistent with other elements of the city's comprehensive plan. In terms of the next steps, this amendment to the comprehensive plan will go to the planning board on March 16, so next week, and will be presented to the City Commission for first reading on April 19, 2021. At that point, if the City Commission approves the proposed amendments, we will transmit the amendments to the Department of Economic Opportunity for their review. And while the Department of Economic Opportunity does their review, staff will work on the amendments to the zoning and land development regulations and bring those for your review and approval. So at this point, the schedule for the LDR changes is to be presented to the Downtown Action Committee on May 12, to the Planning Board on May 18, and to the City Commission for first reading on June 1st. The second reading will be concurrent with the second reading of the comprehensive plan amendments and will happen around June 28, 2021. So that's kind of we're basically doing a staggered approach. We will send the comprehensive plan amendments first, and while the DO conducts the review, we will finalize the details for the proposed language for the LDRs, and then at the end, they will come together and be approved at the same time. So when the City Commission approves the second reading for the comprehensive plan amendments, they will have the full details for the zoning and land development regulations that will implement the proposed downtown master plan housing incentive program. That concludes the staff presentation, and I'm open to answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay, thank you, Anna Maria. Thanks for that thorough presentation. Anyone in the public out there wanting to make a comment? Now would be the time to do so. Do we have anybody in queue, John?
Mr. Chair, no one's expressed interest in public comment.
Okay, I suppose we will then close the public discussion and then open it up for questions from anyone on the committee for staff. Anyone out there have a burning question? Nick, Brad?
Mr. Chair,
Yep. Brian?
I have a couple quick questions for Anne Maria and for Jennifer. What was the impetus for the 33% of the incentive area? And is that the number of units, 33% of the TDR units that would come online above and beyond the maximum permitted number of units, or is it physical area? Is it space within the development? I'm trying to get an understanding of that, because as you said in your presentation, they're not getting free city TDRs anymore. They're going to the private market and they're paying for them. So I understand you're increasing the development capacity a little bit, so that which would offset them from essentially, having to pay for the TDRs now, whereas these other projects came through and they didn't pay for the TDRs, and we got some lower priced units. Where did the 33% come from? Is that a threshold that is that part of the aggressive nature of the 33%? Because I don't know anywhere else where they ask for 33%. So I'm just trying to get some background on how you guys scaled that.
Yes, we have the Housing and Economic Development Department has somebody in their department, Jeremy Hagler, that is very good with numbers, and he did extensive analysis of the benefit that the projects receive with the additional development capacity and how much of that can be restricted in terms of income. And remember, this is not that they are not getting any income. It's basically that those units that will be restricted will be rented or sold to a lower price. And also that is for a period of time. So right now we are targeting 20 years of affordability. After that, the units will be a market rate. So all those numbers were calculated in terms of the analysis of how much a project can restrict, what is the income restriction, and how much of those the pro forma of the project will be able to absorb in comparison with the benefit that they are receiving for the additional development capacity.
Is it possible to implement possibly, and this is just food for thought, a sliding scale in terms of the percentage allowed or required? Because as TDRs get lower, as the number of TDRs lower, the values of the TDRs are going to go up, and the last guy in is going to probably pay the most for those TDR rights from the private sector when they know that I'm the last guy and I have the last 10,000 square feet or last 100,000 square feet. That number may rise, and that the last residential development, as that pool gets smaller and smaller, they may find themselves in an untenable situation to have to give away. I'm just wondering if that.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that I want to mention, those are the details that we are working right now.
Yes.
So we are, that the 33% is where the staff is proposing right now. We have meetings with some of the developers next week. We met with a couple of the developers already to test our initial assumptions, and we are basically tweaking all the numbers, and maybe that by the time it comes to you as the details of the zoning and land development regulations, the percentage that are adjusted in terms of how much they have to provide, maybe the income levels is adjusted. So we are working on those details. That's why we didn't want to present the whole thing together, because at this point we are not ready for that. So we just want to move ahead with the comprehensive plan amendment to simply identify the areas where incentives are appropriate. And how much of the incentive will go for affordable housing or not, that is definitely the LDRs, and we will come back to you with those details. But definitely those are questions that we have. We are working on that, analyzing every little detail and every number possible. internally and with developers to test our proposal and be sure that whatever we put out there actually works, because the worst thing that we don't want is that we put the program and the developers are not doing it because it doesn't make sense for them, right? So
Yeah,
we are
right,
working on that.
Anna, let me add, Brian, that's what I was going to reiterate, that we're working on those details now. We've been working on it for some time. And as Anna mentioned, we've spoken to some developers. We're going to speak to more developers, but everything from the buyout amount, it's a very complicated formula that we're using, but the more of the 60 AMI that you do in lieu of the 100, there's a multiplier effect that we get to use. So there's actually less square footage you have to provide if you do more of the 60 than the 100. So all of that detail we will present to you, but we don't want to get into a whole lot of detail because we want to test, run numbers. We've been doing it now. Our next step is we're going to meet with a series of developers. So you'll see all that in May. And certainly the key is that we want a program that's going to work, that's going to be an enticement to developers to use.
Yeah, it's very important. It's an important incentive, and it's needed. We all know that. It's just, really want to see. I'm excited to see that a program come into play that really incentivizes people to do this, get these units up and built and online, and incentivizes them to do that. And it sounds like you guys are well into it. So I appreciate the preliminary, start of it.
One question, you identified these two areas. Are there other areas that you are considering, or are you pretty much just focusing on the two that you presented today? Is there anything else in play?
No, the intention will be that incentive will be applicable to any area where TDRs are accepted. Basically, any of the other areas that were already identified as receiving sites for TDRs, they will be eligible for the incentive. So we are just adding this one. So it's not that the incentive will be only on the areas that I show you. It's basically adding to the pool of eligibles.
Okay. And offhand, I'm sure you'll present this in the next meetings. I know the bank of the sending site is getting low. I know we discussed that last time. I don't know what it is. I don't know if you know that offhand, Rick or Anna. And then also how much is available in the private market? I don't know we've actually gone over that number at all, but I'm sure you're going to present that.
So we had a mayor commission workshop on February 1st to discuss that. So we've got 72,133 square feet available through the city today. There's several things that we're doing that this board will see in the immediate future. One is going to rezone the Jose Marti Park from Flagler Waterfront 5 to urban open space. That will capture approximately an additional 95,000 square feet of TDRs that the city could then utilize. The Flagler Station project that Anna mentioned, they're required as part of that approval that you guys did. They have to create a linear park that would generate another 13,200 square feet of TDRs. And then lastly, we're looking at the Seaboard Station. It's a historic building. We can utilize that. We want to make improvements to the station, bring it up to code, make some other improvements, paint the building. When that happens, that's going to generate approximately another 380,000 square feet. So St. Anne's is coming in for landmark designation. That's going to second reading on March 22nd. When that happens, that gives them 158,000 square feet of TDR. So that will leave us with a net of about 400,000. So the 72,000 we have now, once we do these three things, which will take a little bit of time, that'll bump that number up to 400,000. And then on the private market, and I think there's over 1 million square feet, is there not?
Yeah, it is around 2 million square feet of
2 million,
development
okay.
that can be transferred. So we have created done a really detailed sheet, Excel sheet of every property that is eligible for designation and how many TDRs they can transfer. So there is quite a good number of TDRs that could be purchased on the private market for these developments.
And once someone does sell the TDRs, there is no going back, correct? Or is there a way that they could purchase them back, or I just curious?
I mean, the only provision that we have right now in the code for people to purchase back their TDRs is in those cases where, and this is basically one case that I know. I mean, there are a couple, but the Hibiscus house on Rosemary and Vernier. Those houses are designated as historic buildings. They were designated many years ago. They sold their TDRs, but I don't know if any of you know, but those houses were not originally in that location. They were moved from another location to this site. So we have provided some alternative for those cases where the buildings were not originally on their site, for them to be able to move to a new location, successfully relocated, and in that case, the owner of that land could purchase back basically their development capacity and restore their development capacity of the site. But this is only on few cases. I know that the Hibiscus House, buildings on Fern that have that. Only very few cases that for those structures that were designated, but they were not originally on that location. They are historic structures, but they were not originally on that site. So we are allowing them to move them to a new location.
Okay, so it's pretty rare exception if they ever want to purchase them back. I was just curious if there had been any cases like that. So, okay, no, that answers some basic questions I was curious about. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Nick, you got anything?
I do, yeah, just appreciation for doing this. I have always been interested in affordable housing and diversity and having, you know, a mix of a place for everyone to live at all different incomes and positions in the community. I had, you know, some questions on specifics, but I think they're going to get worked out in the details that you talked about. Just one thing that kind of strikes me is if the goal is to really have a successful program of people of different incomes cohabitating, then to me, the average median income is one facet, but it's really kind of a more comprehensive program. And I'm just maybe, you know, thinking on the, you know, loophole side or the potential of a developer saying, hey, okay, we have these units, they're offered for this measure below the median income or average median income, but we also have this laundry list of things that you have to meet. Oh, your credit has to be a certain score, you have to have a certain, you know, whatever. I'm just trying to kind of brainstorm and think, hey, it's maybe a little bit more than just your income level. And I don't want to see impediments or, you know, cumbersome application processes or, you know, ways that say, okay, you know, we can meet this legislative requirement, but there's all these sort of, you know, dirty tricks, let's call them, that may come into play here. So to really strive for a successful program, I would just encourage kind of backing into it and thinking about, hey,
We lost Nick.
as a person, what are the pitfalls that to go through this? Oh, are you here?
I think
Can you hear me?
I think we lost you, Nick. But I hear you. Maybe Jennifer has something to say on that regard. Definitely, the details will come with the zoning and land development regulations, but I think the qualification process will be handled by HCD.
Right,
Jennifer?
absolutely. Thank you, Anna, and thank you everyone for your support. Yeah, that's something that we're going to look at. We're in the process of also building a program, and we will have obviously restriction and restrictive covenants on the property. And those requirements will be outlined in those legal documents. As a part of that, we'll be conducting annual monitorings of these units to ensure that they're adhering to whatever percentages we've set aside for affordable housing and whatever we outline within that program. But obviously fair housing laws and looking at some flexibilities with, you know, with what you're saying, those are things that will be incorporated within the program itself and in the restrictive covenant. You know, I'll add one thing. It's kind of, where do we find that balance, right? Because we want to make sure that we put together a program that's going to be utilized by developers where people are going to ultimately be able to occupy these units. You know, but at the same time, it's how do we make it so it's not too cumbersome and developers actually want to develop the housing that we're putting forward. So definitely all of that will be outlined in that program, and we'll bring that back to you for more detail in the future. Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Nick, did you have any more? Are you still with us?
I don't think you can hear me. It says
Yeah, we hear
I'm
you
not
now.
on mute, but oh, you can hear me. Okay, well,
Yeah,
okay.
I can.
I appreciate that response. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Let's see. Brad, you have any comments? Brad? Okay.
Yeah, I just unmuted. No comments here.
Okay, great. Thanks. Gregory or John Lee?
No comment, thank you.
Not really. Just a comment. I know the details gonna be worked out later. Just question. I don't know if it can be answered right now. That would there be a base that able to be set on per development to basically kind of control the available affordable housing per development? Is that will be possible, or that will be just determined based on the developer as the developer proposed their project?
I'm not sure I understand your question, Mr. Gabriel.
My question is, would the city and the code, would there be basically a mandate set of affordable housing per unit, per development unit, per projects?
This would be an optional program, so the incentive would be available should a developer want to utilize it. So the way it's structured now is that if they choose to do it, the draft that we're working on now allows them to seek increased height with the provision that 1/3 of that additional development be set aside for workforce housing. It's purely an optional program. And again, with the three options that Anna mentioned earlier, they could provide it as part of the project. They could provide it elsewhere within the downtown master plan area, or thirdly, do a buyout. So it's not something we're mandating. We're offering it as an incentive, and the key is to make that incentive large enough that people would utilize it.
Okay, that's where I was going, because I just do not want, when with cities trying to do something good, but the buyout is more favorable to the developer, then we end up going through this process and trying to create housing, and because the buyout in the market rate is allowing the developer to buy out, and then we end up with not enough affordable housing for the community. That's where I was going. So if it's an option, I guess we could work on making it attractive enough so everybody wins.
Yeah, yes, just to clarify a little bit. So definitely it is an option. So the developer, if they are doing a residential project, they could just do what they are allowed by right on their site and just do that. Or if they want to increase the development capacity and the height beyond what is allowed by right, they could utilize this incentive, but they will have to provide the restricted units. That is their option. They could stay with what they have a right or use the incentive and provide the units. In terms of the buyout, one of the things that we are looking is to be sure that the buyout is a more expensive option than providing the units, because at the end of the day, the goal is to provide the units within the downtown area. So we are trying to running the numbers in a way that if they don't want to provide the units on site, it will be more expensive for them than provide them on site.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Gregory. Any other comments from anyone else?
I had just one more comment relative to the 20-year time frame. It just kind of struck me. Did I hear correctly that this program would be 20 years in the time period and then would end? And I say that in the context of if it's a successful program and you have 5 or 6% of the downtown residences of workforce, 20 years comes, all of a sudden that you hit that waterfall and everybody, their rent gets quadrupled and they're all evicted and on the street the next day. So I don't know about ending the program as opposed to maybe making it incentivized differently over time.
What maybe I can clarify that. When I say ending the program, is that the restriction of the income level for the units will be for the 20 years. So if you have one project where you have, let's say, 10 units that you have to rent to families at 80% of the AMI, that rent has to be at that level for 20 years. After 20 years, the developer could basically rent those units at market rate.
But the incentive could go on indefinitely. It's not limited to the 20-year horizon.
Yeah, it's the project specific that is restricted.
I see. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Thank
motion
you.
to approve?
Yep, no, absolutely. Thanks for the motion. I just quick comment. I think it's a fantastic program, well thought out, and thanks to staff for all your hard work on this. So motion is out there. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Motion second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? None? Great. So it's approved. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, staff.
Thank you to all. We will definitely be back with a much more extensive discussion about the details of the program in the coming months.
Yeah, it's a long process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess that's it for today's cases. Any unfinished business, Anna Maria, or?
Nope.
Okay, anyone else? Any other new business or other business? Okay, then we'll move to adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Great day. See you next month.